Hello folks and welcome. So today's video is going to be about total backups, whether they're fully automated, semi-automated, and if you wanted to copy all of your home folders, that includes folders with spaces in them and also hidden files and folders. I have that example for you today. These have folder names with spaces in them, and this backup has also hidden files and folders. And you can do that to internal or external drives. We can also talk about how to make things fully automated. And you'll have a startup file in here that will run backups automatically, silently. All you do is log in and start working. I will talk about the tools required. I will talk about the total procedure. And these are going to be running a 2-line script file. You heard that right, two files. 2 lines of code. That's it. And I think I can teach this to pretty much anyone. I'll also talk about troubleshooting. And some of these little hints I've said over the years, but this time I'm going to fully show you what I mean by those little hints that I've been giving. So a little bit of history. I used to tell people, try not to create folders with spaces in them. And you'll see why today. So in either case, I'm filming in 1080. Adjust your YouTube player if necessary. The subscription key should be in the corner. If you don't see that, you find me on YouTube. I do recommend subscription that you watch the video in its entirety. If you don't have the time to watch it today, you can subscribe and watch it in multiple sittings. This will be more than 20 minutes because I'm going to explain not only how to do this, and all the little tips and tricks, including troubleshooting. All right, so I'm using an Xfce desktop that's fairly stripped down. So I'm going to talk about some tools that you may need to install. So I'm keeping the same wallpaper with the rodent of unusual size here. That's a little quote from the movie The Princess Bride, if you have ever seen that movie. We have to have a sense of humor here and there. So you'll also hear some of the comments that I've heard kids made that were looking over my shoulder one day, and it stuck with me for many years. So anyways, it has to do with your home folder. So in either case, hopefully you'll enjoy this video, and again, I recommend watching it in its entirety. I'll give you the demo first. So through now the file manager, what I'm going to do is a simple backup. I'll just erase that folder and click that. Now that is making a complete backup with all the subfolders from this user. Okay. The other one that's in here takes a little bit longer, and that's much larger than this one. It has all the hidden files also in here. I'll cover that in a minute. But let's talk about some tools first. Since I'm using a fairly stripped down Xfce desktop, let's head on over to Synaptic Package Manager and install a couple of things. So one of the tools that I would recommend if you don't have one already, something to format USB sticks or drives. Something else that if you want to do fully automated backups, a tool that will take one of these hard drives and auto mount it for you. So it's automatically mounted during your startup and login, so you can do fully automated backups. All right, so basic formatting tool. And that one is called Gnome-Disks or Gnome-Disk-Utility. Gnome-Disk-Utility. Install that if you don't have it, is what I recommend. So I also installed a second text editor. You don't need it, but the reason I like Kate is when I'm filming, it has a nice highlighter on it. So that is an advanced text editor. It's quite large, but nonetheless, you don't need it. You already have Mousepad installed. All right. Another tool that you will find on a lot of Linux distributions that are already installed, but it wasn't on this one, is rsync. Rsync is what it's going to be doing all this magic of backups. Rsync is a very powerful tool. It's not very big. It can be used to copy or sync up or make backups of your files and folders from computer to computer or from drive to drive. And we're going to be doing internal backups using this. And it'll sync up these files folder for folder, file for file if you want to. Or if you don't want to. And I'll be using that on one internal drive, one external drive, and then one to the local drive. All right, so install that. It's very fast. All right, now let's talk a little bit about script files. These are all 2-line script file shortcuts, 2 lines of code. Yes, you heard that right. But I will demo some of the older script files that I have for you that have more lines to compare things. Now, dtester is our user for today. It stands for Debian tester. This is a Debian system, so I thought that would be appropriate. Anyways, you can see that I added some folders in here called my space junk space. Now, why did I just say that word? If you are a distro hopper, you may have noticed that your standard folders don't have spaces in them. It's not called my documents or my pictures. It's just called documents and pictures. So there's no spaces in those. So I added 3 folders for this purpose. My space junk space stuff. Why did I make mention of that? Because now I'm going to talk about why you don't want to put spaces in certain things. And if you do, you can make some special provisions. So that day has come. So create yourself a folder. I called mine scripts. Script files are all written with a text editor. So a mousepad comes installed. I added Kate just for highlighting purposes. You don't want to use a word processor. If you don't like mousepad or Kate, install your favorite text editor, whatever you feel is necessary. These are essentially all just text files converted to scripts. So typical example of this is you turn the permission to allow that to be ran as a program. If you want to add these little fuzzballs, these are called emblems. Feel free. They don't add there's no benefit for putting them there other than color. Generic is good also. Okay. Since I'm using Kate, I'll open up all 6 of these to let you see them. And I'll give you an opportunity in a couple of minutes, if you like, to make screenshots. None of these are proprietary. Okay, should have 6 of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is one of my oldest script files. Very simple. I think anybody can do that. This one here is a newer one, and more importantly, a little bit more progressive, but it has less lines of code. And that one there is also an older one. And this one here requires a lot of space. So that is your home folder. I had a little girl that was looking over my shoulder. I don't remember when. She said, "That looks like Wormy." Anyways, so we have Wormy here. So Wormy is found next to your number 1 key, normally on a standard keyboard to the left, if you wondered about that little squiggly Wormy. Anyways, that's a tilde, and we put another symbol next to it with a /, not a back. So that represents the home folder, believe it or not. All right, I'm going to drop to this first one and then explain this a little bit in detail. All right, so line 7 and 8 don't need to be there. They're just describing what this is. So this is a 2-line script file. I don't need those 2 extra lines. This will work just fine as it is. But I'll put them back in there because it describes what this does. This is going to copy your home folder and no hidden files. So generally, when you are opening these things up, you do know you have hidden files in here. Most people don't need those. Display hidden, Control-H. Everything that starts with a period or dot is a hidden file or folder. Period or dot. Born Again Shell history is right here. It says .bash _ history, Born Again Shell. Well, that's what we're going to be using today is bash. So bash is found in the bin directory of your local drives for most computers that run Linux. This is your root folder, and more importantly, bin is located right there. Okay? Control-H to turn off hidden files. So that is where Born Again Shell is hiding out, as one would say. So that's all that means. Now we need to process this by these 2 letters, or symbols, I should say. And standard keyboards, normally you can look at your number 3 and your number 1 key on your upper row of your numerics. If you hit the shift and the 3-1, it'll produce those symbols. If it's different on your keyboard, which I highly doubt, you find those 2 symbols and you place them there. Then you put no space and you look for the /, not backslash. / is should be below the enter key, sometimes called a question mark also. All right, so you put that in there and type in bin, another /bash. That's the complete line to convert this into a script file, pretty much. All right, so rsync is remote sync. rsync uses many options, many. You can probably go find that on any search engine to find out how many different commands rsync has. I like simple. Hopefully you like simple also. That is not really that simple though. The archive option is actually very powerful, but I'm using it here. I could add a Z and a big C. I can also add one of these in here, and it makes it for a very complex looking script. But I like simple. But these are all codes that you can dump into the rsync lines. So then I hit space and I'm going to type in / exclude equals, no space, equals, double quotes. The double quote can be normally found next to the left of your enter key. All right, there are 2 symbols there. There's a single quote and a double quote. This is double. And put a dot or a period and an asterisk. That little thing, it looks like a star. And then we put another quote on the end. So this statement here removes the hidden files from this home user, this dtester or Debian testers home folder. Control H, now you see them, now you don't. So we're just copying these files, is what this is doing. And we're going to copy it over to Wormy. The tilde / represents the home folder. But we're not copying this to a different device. We're copying it to the same device. In other words, your home folder. And we're going to dump it into a folder called backup 1. There is no provisions to remove anything in here. If you want to call this a safety valve, to basically copy your home folder without hidden into a folder that doesn't delete. I know that may sound strange to you. So let me give you a hypothetical. So Debian tester, dtester, goes in there and maybe is playing around and deletes that file. Somewhere during the day, he went in here and deleted this. And then either today or tomorrow, he realized something is missing and panics and goes to the trash can and it's gone. Well, if you were to have this done this way, I'll do it from here. This local backup or backup 1 contains all these files and folders. No matter how many times I run this, it will not remove files. It will only add new ones. And it does not replicate any of the existing files if it hasn't changed. It only adds new stuff. Okay, that's what that does. Okay, I'm going to delete that. So that doesn't have any provisions of this command here, but I can certainly add it to that command. But you will see the -- deletes on all these other script files for that purpose of syncing. All right, now we're going to move on to the next one. And again, these are 2 script lines, and these again are used to describe things. Most programmers put these in there to tell you what's going on. I'm just doing it to let you know that this is a home folder backup. And in this case, it's not going to be doing hidden files because I got the excludes. But the -- delete is going to keep these in sync. I didn't type that in here. I could have. So if you want, I'll do it this way. Okay, it doesn't matter, it's just text. All right, so anyways, this command here, so if the user is adding and removing any of these subfolders, it doesn't matter which one, adding and removing, adding and removing music, adding and removing pictures, adding and removing files or folders. It's all going to be done through this right here. We are copying Wormy, our home folder, to that folder name there. We're syncing that up to this auto-mounted drive. It has MNT on it. This one did not have MNT. This is what was copying this to our local drive. Okay, so where did this come from? Well, this drive is auto-mounted, so it has to have MNT on it, and that's where I got the number from. Okay, I'll put it on line 10. That's a long thing to be typing in here, isn't it? Yes, that's why you can just copy and do a paste in there. All right, so I'm going to highlight that. I'm using Kate. Kate is a nice highlighter, as I pointed out earlier. On some Linux distros, it doesn't copy this character here, the /. That's okay, you can add it later. It's done here. All right, so now you know why I use that occasionally. But anyways, paste that in there nonetheless. So right after you put your tilde /, again, that represents your home folder, one space, and then you put the drive name in here, and you put another / if it didn't copy it, and then you put in your folder name. Now I'm going to talk about a little bit of troubleshooting. At the same time we're writing this, I told you I was going to do troubleshooting. All right, so basically we are using something that we're trying to understand how this works. So Wormy over here is our home folder. Yeah, I can't let go of that. It was too cute, I'm sorry to say. Anyways, tilde / is our home folder, and we want to sync that up to this name here. So let me give you that example by real time. So we are doing this right here. That's the name of this thing. And we're copying all of these, and they even include subfolders. But the initial folder is no spaces in that. This you will say spaces with some special provisions. I've talked about this before. If you use folders without spaces, folders with spaces in them, you got to do special stuff to script files. You notice that these brown folders, which the system generated, which you'll find on, well, different themes on different desktops for Linux, they normally do not have spaces in them. The folder names is what I'm referring to. So what happens when you do this? You will get some undesired results. I have seen everything from it makes a backup folder, not called my backup, but a backup folder in the home directory of some Linux distros, and sometimes it makes a backup folder inside of the script folder. It just does bizarre stuff. If you want to use spaces in the folder names, you put quotes in there for the primary folder. That's what I did here. This is acceptable. This is not an error. You can see that in here. That script file I just generated, this backup earlier, it has a space in it, my space backup, and then all the subfolders. So that is very important that you understand this. So this right here is not acceptable. You will get undesired results. This is fine. This is also fine. Let me save that. This is going to the USB. So I'll minimize this for a second and let you see this. It would be that one. It creates a folder called B and all the subfolders. It's kind of silly, but we can do stuff like that. So we are doing this to the USB, and we are going to put a single quote, my backup. Okay. And a single quote. I'm going to get rid of that extra one and then save the file. We're dealing with USB, so I'm going to minimize that. And I'm going to erase that because I altered the script file. It's always a good idea to rerun them. These are just shortcuts to those files. and you can see it's doing it properly. So that's the biggest benefit here if you're doing that. So this also was, I altered, called My Backup, but I'm going to go fix this one. Simple is good. I'll remove all that. And I'll resave that one. Since I played with it, main all, we should always replicate. It's right here. And it looks like it works fine. So let's continue. All right, now that you understand that spaces are not a good idea unless you put single quotes around them. All right, so this one here, you can see that this has more lines of code. I'll come back to that. This is actually less powerful than these are, believe it or not, even though they got more lines of stuff. And this one here is a total home folder backup, including hidden files, to an auto-mounted drive. This one here has the standard bin bash statement, but this one here copies everything. So wormy without any exceptions, and no exclusions, as one would say. So ~/ is the total home folder. That includes everything you see here, plus these. You better have a big drive if you do this, because sometimes your home folders are enormous. To give you an idea, I backed this up earlier. This is 1.8 gigabytes, maybe not by any standards for some of the newer drives, but in the old days this was considered enormous. This one is smaller because it's not copying everything. It's just copying specific folders. They may look the same to you, but they're not, because this one contains hidden files. And this one does not. Control-H. So when you are doing these commands here, if you want to do them at all, and you want your complete home folder, then you can do that on a drive that has enough space in it. So I called it total backup. Again, with no spaces, unless I put quotes on either side, and then I can put a space in there. But this is going to an auto-mounted drive, which is the same one as this guy here. All right, and that's the total backup. So that represents this script file. Big difference though in space. If you decide to use, and you can change this out for USB, you better be prepared for some time, because inherently USB connected drives in general, or USB sticks, are inherently slow. When you are copying your home folder, syncing it up to a USB device, you better be patient, and more importantly, you better have a big enough stick in this thing, or drive. I'm going to continue. All right, so this one is very simple. I showed this many years ago when I first started teaching script files. You do an rsync, yes, so you do the bin bash thing. Archive option, very simple. ~ is any user, but this is specific folder. So this is the source that I'm going to be copying to this device here. So you can see that it says media, Mary, my junk on there. This user doesn't exist on this system, but anyways, so that's a manually mounted drive called my junk. Mary is the user. So this is where you can see usernames, and you'll see that same in here where it's dtester, also media. That's live on this system, not on this one. So the way I was doing this was to explain this command here. It's not over here. To make it simple for users to understand that you're editing this folder here with that command. You're not using that for this. The user has been creating and deleting files in this document folder, and when you have that command turned on, it also replicates it the same in here, file for file, folder for folder. If I leave it off, it does the same thing as this. It doesn't delete anything here. Hopefully that was understood. Now this one, on the other hand, may look complex, but it's the same as this one. but it's not as powerful as any of these that I've been showing. Believe it or not. So all the commands are done in the front. It's rsync, the archive option with the VHs. That means that if I run it in terminal, it'll display a file list. The dash deletes, again, are handling this folder here. This is my source. Tilde again is what? Little wormy. Is your logged in user. And it's going, in this case, to a mounted drive. And you can see this drive doesn't exist on the system. It's 25 franc 59. But this drive here is 4 alpha 4. So this is not even close. So I don't remember where this came from. But in either case, the example that I was trying to give here is documents to documents, music to music, downloads to downloads, and a folder called stuff, which is now being replicated to another system called, another folder called myjunk1. This is acceptable. There are no spaces in there. The only one that has spaces is the one in red, which is Joe's space junk folder, and quotes are on the sides, and the tail end is the same. I will open this file with mousepad. Find that first. And I think it's this one. You can't see any red in here because mousepad doesn't highlight anything. So it's harder to see this kind of stuff, but more importantly, that's the same file I just showed you in Kate. So where am I at? Here. So that's why I use Kate for filming. So you can see this rather easily. That has single quotes in the folder, / single quote, Joe's space junk space folder, single quote, / and I do the same on the tail end. If you omit these also on this end, you get weird results. That's why I advocate that sometimes you just make folders that are simple names. Or if you want to do my no space junk 2, that's perfectly acceptable. If I decided to use my space junk 2, I need those single quotes in here for this rsync to properly run these kind of commands. And keep in mind, we can do script files lots of different ways. I like simple. This one here, again, very powerful. It's doing everything in the home folder to that device here called Total Backup. All right, we're at 27 minutes. We're now going to talk, and you can always back this up to copy the script files with a screenshot tool if you like. Let's talk about the Gnome-Disk-Utility now to do two things. We're going to format things and we're going to auto mount things. If you're not that familiar with the Gnome-Disk-Utility, it's a wonderful tool for doing a lot of things. And I'm going to mention just a couple of them. First of all, this tells me this is a USB connected drive that is connected and mounted because it has media on it. And since it's USB, I see a power key. These do not have those. These are internal drives. The 240 is my Debian 12 with the boot partition and a swap space. The 1 terabyte drive here is a manually mounted internal drive called demo. I keep demo files on this one, and this is an NVMe mounted with formatted with extension 4. Not important. This one, on the other hand, is my backup drive. Now, if you have the luxury of a tower computer, because most of the time with laptops you can't put a second drive in them, but if you do, you can use those 2.5-inch drives. They also fit on tower computers. I stopped using the bricks a long time ago. What's a brick? A 3.5-inch spinning hard drive that weigh a ton. I use nothing but small things like that, and the 2.5-inch drive solid state work great for me. And they're fairly cheap nowadays. So in either case, if you are using a spinning hard drive or a drive that's 10 years old, rethink that process, because those drives can fail on you quite frequently when they're that old. All right, so mine is not. So I'm going to format it first. And you can do the same on your USB. I don't like this example because it shows spaces. I personally, if you're going to use the backup, that's plenty good. Or backup 1, backup 2, but put no spaces in those names. Yeah, it's the same process that I was talking about earlier with folder names. Okay, so you can see these are all, they don't have any spaces in them. That's what I recommend. Differences of opinion with others, that's fine. I'm just telling you my way of doing things. So backup 1, backup 2, no spaces. Format that with extension 4 is what I would recommend. And next. Wait till it finishes. And then go over to here and edit mount options. This will be just like this. All you do is turn that off. Do not play with this, leave it on, leave this on, and you hit OK. When you reboot your computer, it's going to take on this name right here. Not important currently, but I wanted to point that out to you because that's the same as in your file manager currently. That number is the same. Frank 235 is the ending number, and 4 alpha 4 is the beginning of it. Yours will be different, but the important part I want you to see is the MNT part. So you slide that off, you hit OK. In my case, I'm going to close. And let me close that also. But you want to actually reboot or restart your computer. Log back in. Verify that your drive is auto-mounted if you want to do fully automated backups. If it has MNT and whatever cryptic name that it gave it, first of all, you can import that into your script files rather easily. And 2, let's talk about the magic of auto backups. These will be silent backups. They won't post a note or anything. It'll just back up your system files, your home folder, without any intervention whatsoever after you write this. All right, so I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to make mention there's a lot of folks out there that have done CRON jobs, cron jobs. They're a little bit more complex than for standard users. But I like simple, so we're going to stick with simple instead of doing CRON. Okay? Type in a name. What do you want to call this thing? I'm going to call mine main backup, just because it's a name. And then I'm going to skip the description part because it's optional and go find a script file that is called main all, because that's the one that copies all of the user's home folders without the hidden stuff. I don't really need the hidden stuff for backups, at least for this kind of daily backup or whenever you log in. So let me first find the folder while I'm yakking here, and main all. So we have a name and we have a path. You can click in there and use your arrow keys just to confirm it. So it's main all. We're going to do that on auto login. You can change that if you like. All of these are set to trigger on logins. So it's currently at the bottom. You can see it right here. So if you do all settings and come back, it'll be in alphabetical order. It's right here. The beauty of doing this, it's going to be run automatically during login. It'll be a totally silent backup. As a matter of fact, when you log in, you can just start working and it'll be auto backed up. If you decide at any time you want to turn this off, you go find your session and startup and you turn this off. That's it. Normally you set it and forget it, and as long as the drive has enough space on it, it'll continually make backups. To test this, if you like, if you kept some of the same formatting that I did, you can just delete that, literally log out and log back in, and it'll recreate that folder. Now, the one thing that you may not understand about rsync that I'm going to explain is it doesn't need to replicate things it's already replicated. To give you that example, if the Debian tester user did not alter any files in here, when you log in and log out, it doesn't need to replicate those again over here. They're already done. It's not going to redo your work if it's not necessary. However, if you did alter a file, add a file, delete a file, then it'll do the same on your backup. Only if there's changes made is the bottom line. And keep in mind, this backup is different from that one. This backup is just doing the home folders without any hidden stuff. The other backup that I did here is more for advanced users that want to see hidden files and folders. All right, most users do not need any of that nonsense. And these are just shortcuts to the script files. So I'm going to leave you with one more note. If you want to run these directly from the file manager, you don't need shortcuts. In here, you can activate a tool, and I'm going to need two windows to do this with to let you see this. Control N opens up a second box. We'll do this with the USB one first. I'm going to delete the folder and have it re-replicate. But you remember when that's this one here. If I do this, it opens the text editor, right? We're going to do the My Backup. I'm using mousepad right now. All right, so anyways, Edit, Preferences, Advanced, Execute Shell Scripts. Now I can double click on them. I'll do the other one too if you like. The reason I'm deleting them is so you can see this stuff on the screen. That's the only reason. Otherwise I would have left it. And there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.